Okay. All right. I did it. I'm going to figure this out. I told you I'm going to figure this out. Well, welcome everybody. Let me pull up the chat before we get started. Okay. Okay. Well, I decided to start a little bit earlier, to do this live a little bit earlier because I wanted to actually. And I didn't want to wait till 7 o'clock. I wanted to go ahead and get started. So I'm excited to share this content with you, this message with you. If this is your first time ever watching me, my name is Cami Knight, and I believe that I have been chosen to share the message of healing and the possibility that you can truly awaken to the consciousness, to Christ consciousness, and really align your life and be everything that you've been called to be on this earth. And so I literally I was my own experiment, whereby 8 years ago, I found myself um, crying out to God because I wanted my life to change. And I knew that what needed to be changed was me. I didn't quite know, like, what did that mean? What did that look like? What was the path? But I knew that the route and the ways in which I was showing up and how um, I was living my life was causing me a lot of um, chaos, a lot of unhappiness in my heart, a lot of discontentment. I found myself trying to fix things externally. And the more I kept trying to fix things externally, the more frustration, agony, stress, anxiety, suicidal thoughts started entering into my mind. And God saved me from myself. I knew that um, God could help me. But once again, I didn't know how. And I knew that I was desperate for change. And so God met me in my mother's car off the 110 freeway. And I had an encounter with God. I cried out to God for help, and God helped me. And my sincere prayer was, God, show me me. Um, so God spoke back to me. I was literally looking around in my car like, I know this is God. I know when I hear Spirit, I know that it's God. I just didn't know that God would speak to me so suddenly, or it caught me off guard. And God began sharing the things that I was carrying internally, and just really gave me this whole um, dream, and where I had moments in my life as a child where I had picked up a lot of the fears and hurts and belief patterns, how I viewed myself, was showing me how I had carried a lot of the internal baggage and the internal weight um, that really was the reason as to why the life that I was living at the time was causing so much chaos in my external world. And so God began showing me how to plug within. And so I went on this journey to heal. And so, as really just, I love helping people. And it really is just my gratitude of knowing that God is real, knowing that God hears you, and that signs are always all around us, that God is always speaking to us, always. But I think the noise that we have going on within our minds, the chatter we have going on within our hearts, the hurts, the pains, how we think we have to show up, what we're tied to, what we're attached to, um, oftentimes is the clutter or the chaos or the weight or the haze that's in the way of us truly hearing the voice of God, truly being in alignment with that. A lot of it is fear, a lot of it is doubt, our lack of trust in the Spirit of God that lives on the inside of us. A lot of it is a lack of trust within ourselves. Okay. Now, mind you, y'all ignore, please ignore my manicure because look at my manicure. Just try to ignore it, or we're gonna call it a design, okay? um, but anywho, the message still goes on. So I wanted to just share with you how this can heal and change your life, just like how it did mine. And so I wrote some notes, and I wanted to share it with you. Is that okay? So today we're going to really be talking about how to heal, navigate, and understand our fears, and also how to awaken and how to illuminate into this level of consciousness that we all have in our minds, this level of awareness, this level, this self awareness, this inner truth, this inner wisdom, this inner knowledge. God has placed it within us. Where do you think God lives? He lives inside of us, right? And so many of us, including myself, have plugged on the outside and felt very empty on the inside. And oftentimes, that's a very, very unhappy place. I know that place all too well. It's a very unhappy place to plug on the outside and think that your validation, your acceptance, many of you, your heart has been broken. Um, you have felt that you weren't enough um, based out of what has been told to you, what has been said to you. Subliminal messages oftentimes have infiltrated into your soul, into your being. And, you know, you show up based out of those agreements, based out of what someone has told you. And because of that, your reality reflects what you carry. Your reality reflects what you believe. Your reality reflects what you are. And as you release the internal baggage, as you release those belief patterns, as you release those strongholds, as you release those attachments that I'm showing you, that I've been showing you, as you release them, you will find the true treasure within you. You will find that God's been knocking and tapping at you for a very long time. I gave an analogy I believe it was last Friday, where I talked about how when we have that fear versus flight in us, that survival mode that I'm getting ready to share with you more on, our survival mode is strictly to do what? Just to survive, right? We can't, it's kind of hard to hear spirit. It's hard to hear God when we are afraid. It's hard to hear God when all your focus is on surviving. You're not hearing. You're not being still. Your body is tense. Your eyes are, probably the pupil of your eyes are, widen because you're afraid. You might have headaches. For some of you, you might have heart problems because of what you're carrying. For some of you, you might, your body might literally be aching because of what you're carrying. And so when I went on this journey where God was showing me what I was carrying, I realized that I was carrying a lot of stuff. And for many of you, you were carrying a lot of stuff that God has not desired for you to hold as your way of life, as your way of living. God is not desired for you. It is not good for you to hold it. And I know, when we think of surviving, right? There's so many different components as to our state when we're in that realm of surviving. There's so much that comes into play when we feel all we have to do is focus on surviving. There's so much that comes into play. Um, we aren't thinking rationally. We're just strictly thinking how to get by, how to breathe, right? You're just strictly focusing on breathing. And there are times in life where life can throw you some curveballs. Life can throw you some obstacles. Um, life can really hit you, right? And we're not negating that. But what I am sharing with you is that it is not in your DNA, in your destiny, to live your life constantly keeping your head above water. If you can even write in the comments, what is keeping your head above water? What does that look like? I want you to even get that in your mind. What does keeping your head above water look like? Keeping your head above water, what does that look like? What does that feel like? Have you been operating that way? What does that look like? What does that feel like? How has that been for you on a day to day, moment to moment basis? Have you been dysfunctionally functioning for so long that you have become numb to your own feelings, to the own weight that you're carrying? Have you been ignoring what your body is trying to speak to you? I believe our bodies are always speaking to us. I believe that our bodies, I'm saying it again, I believe our bodies, our mind, body, soul, spirit, is always speaking to us, giving us signals, giving us signs that something is wrong, that something is off, that something is we're not in a line with something. We feel it. But because we have lived in the realm of surviving for so long, it has become our, oftentimes, our validation. For many of us, it's become all that we think we know. For many of us, it has become what has been familiar to us. For some of us, we have been so engrooved and ingrained in struggle, so engrooved and ingrained in fighting, so engrooved and ingrained in not believing the best and the good for you, that we, in essence, have become attached to struggle. We become attached to discord. We become attached to chaos. We become attached to heartache. We become attached to brokenness. We become attached to it because we think that is all we know. And for many of us, even on a subconscious level, it's like really getting to the grind, to the groove of it, getting to the root of it, and really finding out what's underneath the surface. What's underneath the surface? I know for many of us, we want to fix the plumbing. Like we want to fix the outer plumbing. I have an example. I have a loved one whose plumbing needed to be fixed. And they kept trying to fix the outside. And so they kept doing these like little bitty repairs because of fear, right? And the same issue kept arising, kept arising, kept arising, kept arising. The same issue kept coming up, kept coming up, kept coming up, kept coming up. And that same person kept putting a band-aid over it, kept putting a band-aid over it. Oh, I can't get to it. Or I don't have enough resources. Or all those things we're saying back to ourselves. And the problem just kept coming up, just kept coming up. And it wasn't until they got to the root of the plumbing problem. They had to dig deep, get into the dirt to find out what was causing the plumbing issue. And that's for many of us, for many of you who are on this live. You've been doing this coping mechanism. For many of you, this coping mechanism has been lashing out on your children. For many of you, this coping mechanism has been staying busy. For many of us, this coping mechanism has been um, through using substance abuse. For many of you, it has been through alcohol. For some of you, it's been through numbing yourself through sex. For some of you, it's not even necessarily that. For some of you, it could be engulfing yourself and becoming a perfectionist because you don't want to slip or you don't want to be shown your scars. And it's eating away at you at night. It's eating away at you at night. It's tearing up your insides. It's causing your mind to deteriorate because you've been in survival for so long. And once again, your mind, your body, your spirit is not wired. It's not wired to live in survival mode. It's not wired. It's only for a short amount of time. Now, granted, back like I've said before in a previous live, where I talked about our ancestors, how our ancestors were designed to learn how to survive, right? Running from bears, running from tigers, right? Or just trying to end that. During that time, their focus was on merely surviving, right? So we have that within us. We need that in time of danger, in time of when we're in distress, in time of when we need to escape from danger, when we need to escape from what is coming our way that might harm us. We need that part of us. We need the reptilial gland, the reptilian part of our brain. We need that, which that's what many scientists has called it, the reptilian brain, the reptilian brain. It's really focusing mainly on, if you can look it up if you don't understand or know what I'm talking about, this term. But for many of us, it's that survival part of our brain, and it's rooted in struggle. And the trick part of our brain is that we oftentimes aren't aware. Well, why do I feel good when I feel like I'm surviving? Well, why do I feel good when I clap back? Well, why do I feel safe when I am afraid? And I keep this fear inside of me. Why do I feel comfort, almost in essence, when I keep? It's like what's um, um, misery is company. I don't know if that's the right analogy, but you get what I mean. When you're talking about fear, oftentimes that thing can be so strong. It can be such a stronghold. It can be so rooted, and when you make the choice consciously to hold on to that fear, to hold on to that memory as a sense of comfort in your heart, and you're not releasing and letting it go, but you're holding on, you're clamping onto that memory, you're clamping onto that thought because you're afraid to let it go. And the trick part of our brain, the reptilian brain, or that chemical that produces, and it says, "Oh, you're doing a good job. You're keeping us alive. You're keeping us alive. You're keeping us alive." The brain doesn't know. The brain doesn't know. And so this is how we stay in that constant cycle, right? You may not even be aware of it. That was for somebody. You're welcome. That was for somebody. Really, I really want you to understand that part of us, um, really understanding that we can be so rooted in that, so rooted in our fear, so rooted in our trauma, so rooted in the fear of surviving and not thriving. We haven't even, so for some of us, we haven't even leaped over to thriving. For some of us, we've been so focused on surviving I'm going to say that again. For some of us, we've been so focused on surviving. That's our way of life. That's our get down. That's how our family got down. That's our environment. And it shows up in your money. It shows up in your relationships. It shows up in your health. For many of us, we aren't even aware that survival mode, that keeping your head above water, that the heart palpitating, the catching your breath, you may not even be aware that you've been doing it. And I've just been here to share with you to help you slow down. Someone said, if I slow down, no, they said, I'm too afraid to slow down. Because if I slow down and really process what's happening, I'm afraid that I won't be able to be there for my children. If I slow down and really process what is happening inside of me, or what has happened, or what I have kept, or what I have hoarded inside of my heart, or hoarded inside of my soul, if I really do keep that, if I really do deal with that and really focus on that, then that means that I don't know what else is going to happen after that. I don't know what's next. I'm afraid to actually sit still. And I get it. I understand it. I know that all too well. I also know that stuff can literally kill you. I also know that I no longer wanted to show up that way anymore. I also knew that was a false sense of strength. I was operating in adrenaline for many years. I was operating from that space for many years. I was operating from the noise and the internal baggage and feeling that I wasn't enough, feeling that I was abandoned, just all these different self-sabotaging um, voices and belief patterns that I really had just circling in my mind. Just believing was believing what I was hearing. Oh, you said I'm not enough. Oh, it must not be enough. And this began circling my mind over and over again until I got tired. And I knew that I had to find a place of rest inside of me. And I knew that God could help me. For some of you, you might be stuck in struggle and you want to come out. This message is for you. For those of you who desire to come out of struggle, to step out of that realm and into your place of peace, into your place of truth, into your place of grace, into your place of love, into your place of power, this message is for you. This message is for you. And you might have been praying about it. You might have said, well, how do I get out of this? But maybe this is all there is. And I'm here to share with you and tell you that it isn't. I'm here to share with you that I've walked it out. I'm here to share with you that God is just real. And I would just encourage you to try Him. I would encourage you to try Him. I would just encourage you to be honest where you are. To be honest where you are. And as you are being honest where you are, I would encourage you to sit and be still and ask God, what is the truth? And how do you truly see me? What is the truth about me? The truth about me. What is not true about me? And how do you truly see me? How am I truly seen? So I have a few notes I'm glad you're getting something out of this, and I'm glad that it's helping you. So I have a few notes that I want to read. It says, we oftentimes get stuck into this realm of consciousness and it becomes our reality. And I talked about the day that I cried out to God for help. I didn't know that all of me would be illuminated. See, that's the thing. Once you step into the knowledge of Christ, once you step into the illumination of truth, you literally will never be the same. Illumination is light being shined in darkness or in the shadow places within you. So, what could be your shadow place? Type it in the comments. I don't feel enough. Yes, I feel abandoned. I feel alone. Someone says, what if I die alone? Someone says, what if my life will always be this way? All of these different shadows. What is not true? What weighs you down? The heaviness that weighs you down. The light, the illumination of God, the illumination of Christ, the consciousness of Christ. And for those of you who are not really following me, let me keep it. Let me break it down in more simpler terms. To waken, to take your mind and your state of belief, your state of conscious, and also your subconscious, which you're holding deep seated, what's subconsciously going on in the background of your mind that you're not fully consciously aware. Having the allowing your mind to raise its level consciously is really about releasing what I mentioned to you. What are you consciously believing? Write it out now. What is the heaviness? What is your state of consciousness? What is your beliefs about you? How do you view you? What are your belief patterns about really you, really getting honest with you? And if you're not even connected like that and you really haven't sat with it, sit for a minute and pretend as if you have a recorder going on in the background of your mind. I want you to write down what's going on in your mind, of what's being said, about what you are saying back to you and what you are agreeing to. And where did that agreement come from? And many of our validation of that belief, from where it came from or who said it, sometimes we hold that validation as our root. And in our root, we produce this fruit. It's not a fruit that we desire, right? A fruit, what is it? Could be a fruit of unworthiness, a fruit of lack, a fruit of brokenness. Well, this is how I'm going to be all the rest of my life. Well, that's just how it is. Maybe that's just how things going to be. And we aren't fully aware of the root of what we are watering and the fruit that we're producing. And so raising your level of consciousness is about uprooting those roots, those roots, giving yourself the permission, sitting in the presence of God, being honest with you and allowing the one who created you to show you who you really are in your alone time, in your quiet time, in your stillness. Allowing God to speak the truth to you and you making room for those new roots, your true roots, to take its root, to water that soil. So it's like pulling out the weeds and allowing your roots, your true roots, to take its place. And this is what you water. How do you water it? How do you water it? One of the ways to water your new roots or your true roots, because remember, all that we have within us from God, all that has been planted inside of us, before we came to this earth, all that has been planted inside of us from God is all that there is. Truly. You ever heard of the analogy where a friend of mine was sharing this with me, and she said, Joy. She used to actually be my therapist, and she was sharing an analogy, and she talked about when you look around in the forest and you see the trees, right? And you're like, wow, this beautiful forest, right? It is beautiful forest. This forest has so many trees. It's so green. It's so beautiful. You don't recognize that beautiful forest started with a seed. And so I want and desire for all of us to create this garden, a new garden, a new field. What do you want your field to look like? What do you want your garden to look like? Some of you feel the burden lifted already in your heart just by me sharing this. I feel it in your heart. What is it? How do you want your garden? What do you want your garden to look like? The fruits of the spirit? Get your mind off the tangibles, even though the tangibles is good. But for right now, I want to share with you something that is the cause to the effect. What we are holding within us, what we are rooted within us, fruits of the spirit, what we are rooted within us. When we're rooted in that, when we do the healing work and uproot those weeds, uproot what was told to us, uproot the garbage, uproot the baggage, uproot the internal what was told to us, what we took in message wise. When we start to sit with that thing and uproot it, and we allow a new root to be planted, and through its time, the fruit that it will produce in your life. Can you imagine your children? Can you imagine your loved ones? Can you imagine how things will shift in your life when you begin to create a new root? When you allow the fruit to be produced. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? It's going to take work. It's going to take work. Yep. It's going to take a decision. It's going to take doing some soul work. It's going to take listening. It's going to take getting some coaching. I'm a coach. I help people as well. It's going to take what it needs to take. Are you willing to hold true to everything that you are meant to have, produce, manifest in this life? And it starts with that one simple thing. And that one simple thing is getting to the matters of you. Okay? If you have any questions on how to uproot, how do I uproot? You can, talk with me offline. But one of the ways that I want to share with you of how to uproot is, I've mentioned this before. You forgot to sit still for a minute and ask, what is ailing you? Allow the answers to come up. As a matter of fact, we can do that practice now. So there's a woman There's a woman on the live, and God is illuminating you right now, revealing to you his truth about you. You've been trying to voice your opinion ever since you were a little girl, and it's been cut off by people. And God wants you to know that he heard your cry, he heard your voice. And it's been weighing on your heart even as an adult, and it's caused your mouth to shut because of what happened when you were younger, what you were told, how you were told to be silent, and you felt that you didn't matter, and you've kept your mouth closed because keeping your mouth closed was a sign of feeling safe, was a sign of feeling secure. And God wants to set you free on today. God wants to illuminate whatever is within you, that heaviness, that memory, that attachment, that hurt. God wants to illuminate that thing so that it can be uprooted, and so that the Spirit's light, God's truth about you, can shine bright. And that it will be no more, that you will now speak truth, that you will now speak what you have felt shackled in for a very long time. He's saying, don't hold it. Don't hold your past against them. And so, what I mean by that, don't hold what happened in the past, don't hold it against them. That was their own issues, their own, there was their own stuff that got passed down to them, their own belief patterns that got passed down to them, and it scarred you. You're a fully grown adult, 43. It's a 43-year-old woman who will be listening. And it has scarred you. But today is your day of truth. Today is your day of healing. Today is your day of reckoning. That you will hear the sound of God. That you will hear the voice of God. For many of us, we have heard the voice of God, and the voices of someone else who has hurt you has overpowered the voice of God. And that's shifting today. That's shifting on this live. And what I mean by that, you've held on to what they have said. You have held on to what they have told you. You have held on to that. And God is saying, listen to me. Follow me. Be led by my voice and my truth. So that is all that I have on today. I want to thank you guys. Me and my manicure wants to thank you for joining me. But that was for somebody. And if there is any comments or questions that you might have, you can definitely leave it in the chat or write it. You guys know how to reach me. But that is it. Thank you guys for joining me. That is all I have. I'll see you guys another time. Bye.